here at the Katy Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for being here with us today for the Katy ISD School Board Candidates Forum for Positions 1 and Positions 2. At this time, I'd like to ask you all to silence your phones. And out of respect of our candidates, please leave all comments, questions to yourself until we conclude today's program. Out of respect of their time and everybody's time here. At this time, I'd like to recognize any elected officials in the audience. I know we have Mayor Pro Tem Chris Harris back there. Thank you for your work, Chris. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Robert Long. He is the chair of the Katy Area Chamber's Education Committee, and he is also serving as the Senior Regional Director for Advocacy and Outreach at Raise Your Hand, Texas for the West Houston region. He's an experienced educator with 23 years in public education, having served as a campus principal at both elementary and secondary levels. As the chair for the Education Committee, Robert supports me and our team in setting the vision for education programming that makes the Katy Area Chamber the leader in educational policy, research, and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Dr. Robert Long.
Thank you, Matthew. And good evening. I would like to first acknowledge my fellow Education Division Committee colleagues, Dr. Jay Neal from the University of Houston, and Mr. Jason Burdine. Please stand and be recognized. Jason, give me a round of applause. Applause for you again. Seriously, these guys volunteer, and I think at the Chamber, we haven't had, it's not really about the quantity, but the quality of programming that we provided. With our state of school, state of higher ed, have been all well attended and not sold out. And so we're going to keep working to make this a education advocacy hub and programming for this area. So I'm honored to work with Matthew in the Chamber. But I'm going to introduce our moderator. So Mr. Jason Burdine, to my left here, is a standing committee member of the Education Division for Katy Area Chamber of Commerce. Jason is a subject matter expert when it comes to all things education, governing, and policy. As a TASB Master Board Trustee, Jason mentors, coaches, and provides support on board operating procedures and team dynamic development. He is a fierce advocate for Texas public education, having been a product of Texas schools himself. He is a father, volunteer husband, fighting Texas Aggie, and former school board trustee and president for most notably Fort Bend ISD. To pay the bills, Jason is a financial advisor, business development consultant, and TEA certified school board provider and trainer, serving and supporting servant leaders so that kids can win. Ladies and gentlemen, your moderator for this afternoon and evening is Mr. Jason Burdine.
Thank you, Dr. Long. We're going to have a good time this evening. I mentioned that to someone and they said, this is your idea of fun? Well, I did serve as a school board trustee, and no offense, but it's probably the most boring thing that somebody could do, sit in an audience listening to a board meeting, although it's obviously extremely important, and I say that with a smile on my face because it is a very noteworthy and a very, just a great thing to do. So as a product of Texas public education and receiving the great education that I did, I really would like to share that opportunity with other students in our district and other leaders and help guide them along their path. So we're going to start off this evening by explaining a little bit about school finance. It's probably the most common conversation that you hear. Texas education is the largest budget item on our budget in Texas. And it is the only social program that is mentioned in the Constitution of Texas, which is to have an appropriate education for all students. We invest back into our students, and in return, we get good quality taxpayers in our state of Texas. So, it is funded in 3 different ways: state, local, and federal. At the state level, 92% of public education funding comes from our state. The governor appoints a commissioner of education. The legislature determines school funding and passes legislation on testing and accountability. The Board of Education writes curriculum and approves or denies new charter applications. Locally, we hire and set goals for superintendent, we adopt district policies, and we determine how funding is allocated within the local district. We call bond elections, set the tax rate for school property taxes, subject to the state formula requirements, and pass the local school budget. We used to always joke and say, unlike the Texas legislature, school board trustees actually have to pass a balanced budget. So, anyhow, and then we have the federal level. The federal level is responsible for really two things. It's special education and child nutrition, which makes up a very, very small part of public education. So anyhow, good evening. I'm delighted to be here. We are being streamed live on Facebook, as it was said before, and a video recording of this will be made via Facebook for the Katy Area Chamber if you would like to go back and listen to it. So this is going to be real easy. A minute introduction, 2 minutes per question, and then a minute closing. So we have compiled quite a few questions here. We'd like to get through all of them, but it's about quality, not about quantity. So I would like to introduce to you our folks sitting here up on the stage. Just so you know, every candidate was invited to be here. So we want to ensure that everyone has the opportunity. So first we have Mr. Duke Keller. Then we have Dr. Elise Markowitz. We have Victor Perez and Cicely Taylor. Can I have a round of applause? It's getting hot in here. So, the first candidate to answer is going to be Dr. Markowitz, and then it's going to be Mr. Perez, Ms. Taylor, and then Mr. Duke Keller. So, please share, Dr. Markowitz, please share your Katy ISD story with the, actually, wait a second here. Let's go back. We need to do opening remarks. Excuse me. I was getting excited here. So. I was ready to jump right into it. So anyway, I'm going to give all of you the opportunity, starting with Mr. Keller. Could you please tell us your Katy ISD? I'm sorry, please do your introduction, and then next we'll go to your story. So.
My name is Duke Keller. I currently serve on the Katy ISD Board of Trustees. I moved to Katy in 1978, the summer before my senior year at Katy High School. I graduated from Katy in 1980. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not know that was available. We'll get in the group here. And graduated from Katy in 1982. And after that, I served 8 years in the U.S. Army and Texas Army National Guard. And then I worked my way through college and law school. I've been with my wife for 31 years. She's a fighting Texas Aggie as well. And we have 3 wonderful children who are also products of Katy ISD, 2 of which are in college, 1 of which attends the school in Austin. And I also still have a 13-year-old in the district. And I ran for the school board and served because I wanted to give back to my community, and I see I'm running out of time. So thank you.
Pass it on to Dr. Markowitz.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Dr. Elise Markowitz. I am a Fort Bend County native and a Taylor High School graduate. After graduating from Taylor High School, I went to Trinity University and got a dual degree in computer science and studio art. I then got a master's in healthcare informatics and then a master's in management before getting my doctorate in education, learning design, and technology. Most recently in the fall, I went back to school because I just love education, and I'm working on my master's in public administration. I've also spent the past 18 years working for the Princeton Review, helping students conquer the evils of standardized testing and helping prepare them for the real world. I am running for this position because I truly feel that education is the foundation of our society, and without having a solid educational foundation, I would not have been able to achieve the goals that I set forth for myself. And I want every student in this district, regardless of race, religion, socioeconomic status, to be given that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Victor Perez. Thank you for having me here. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I actually moved from Cuba. I was born in Cuba. I'm bilingual. My family fled communism from Cuba when I was 7 years old. I'm so happy to be here. I love this country. I just recently retired from a career in the oilfield service industry as a CFO. So I have a lot of experience with corporate boards and also a lot of experience with nonprofit boards. My wife and I have 47 years, and we raised our 3 kids here in Katy, and now we have 4 grandkids. So we have skin in the game, we have deep roots in Katy. And why am I running? Because I want to protect our children. I want to protect our children. I want to support our teachers. And I want to improve the education here in KISD.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Cicely Taylor. I've been in Katy for almost 17 years. I'm originally from Chicago. I like to say I got to Texas as soon as I could, so I like to call myself a Texan. What brought us to Katy are the schools. I'm a lifelong educator, and I believe that education is the great equalizer in our society, and it's so important to have a great school accessible to every student. And so we came here because Katy just had a wonderful school system, so we purposely moved to a smaller house in the best possible feeder pattern to give my children the best possible opportunity. So my kiddos are Katy ISD graduates. They're very successful. They're scholar athletes, both compete at the D1 and D2 level. And it really has a lot to do with the wonderful teachers and coaches and counselors and school leaders that help to support them here. So the reason why I'm running is because I believe in the high quality education that we provide here at Katy. And I also believe there's some things that we can do a little bit different because no one's perfect. I believe my background as an educator and as a mom makes me uniquely qualified, and I think I bring some great assets and skills to the Board of Trustees.
We are sharing it. I want to, just so that we can be fair to everyone, we can move through this with ease. I may, if I could, ask everyone to hold your applause until everyone is answered. If you could do that, that'd be very helpful. And then if you ever need a question repeated, please don't be afraid to ask, because this is your opportunity for us to hear your voice. So question number one, we'll pass it right back to Dr. Markowitz, is please share your Katy ISD story with the audience.
So my KISD story began in 1995 when we moved back from Holland to Katy. I was a Nottingham Knight for 1 year before we then moved to England for 6 years before we moved back when I graduated or came into Taylor High School. Go Mustangs for my junior and senior year. The teachers that I had in KISD were amazing, and they allowed me to pursue my interests, and they provided reasoned conversation and allowed me to understand that there are more perspectives outside of my own worldview, and that in order to make progress as a society, we must understand and be willing to have civil discourse with one another in order to come to collaborative solutions to face the most pressing issues of this day. Education is perhaps the most significant influence in my entire life, which is probably why I've been an eternal student. I've never left this classroom except for the past 4 years when I ran for State Board of Education and HD 28. I came right back into working for high quality education for all. And I believe that KISD has to make sure that they're serving all 90,000 plus of their students and not just a single segment of that population. We live in one of the most diverse counties in this country, Fort Bend County, and we cannot allow simply the loudest voices to have their way. We must make sure that we are providing quality educational opportunities for all students. Thank you.
We moved to Katy in 1990 with our 3 kids, and we raised our kids in Katy ISD all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade. And it was a really wonderful experience. Our 3 kids all graduated from Taylor High School. Our daughter is here. She has 4 kids. We have four grandkids. She married a Katy High School grad, so we have a real melting pot. He played football at Katy, and this has been a great experience and a great education for our kids. For example, we have been very involved with our kids in the schools. Our son was on the state tennis team in 1997. Our son was on the state soccer team, and our daughter was president of the Pacesetter dance team. So just overall a wonderful Katy experience. Now, with these 4 grandkids, and having had 3 kids here and 4 grandkids, I feel like I've had a skin in the game. I want to really, and I know all the grandkids and all of their friends And I just want to really work for their benefit, to protect them, and to improve the education. I fear that the education that I received, and even though Katy ISD is a very good district, I fear that the education that I received and the education that even my kids received is superior to the education that our kids are getting today. And I really want to work. I really want to work to do things like, for example, lift up the underperforming schools. There are segments of our students that are not performing as well. And I'd like to see them lifted up, if you will. What can we do about that? I also want to emphasize special education. I want to emphasize the reading programs. We need really to beef up our curriculum in reading. Thank you.
Thank you. So my Katy story starts about 17 years ago, where, like a lot of Katyites, oil and gas brought us down here. My husband worked in oil and gas, and they brought us here from Chicago. The community in Chicago that I'm from Chicago. I'm from the south side of Chicago, where public schools are not the best choice. And so when we moved here, and I was speaking to the real estate agent, I was like, okay, what are the best private schools? Because that's what I knew. What's the best private school that I could send my kids to that we could possibly afford? And she said, why don't you look at private schools? Have you looked at Katy ISD schools? They're amazing. And when I did, I was like, you were absolutely right. And that's what really brought us here. And since we've been here, I've had the opportunity to have some amazing interactions with teachers and counselors. And they just really lifted up my kids. So as a mom, I can talk about, how wonderful the experience was here in Katy ISD, my ability to volunteer as a PTA member. Our PTAs were amazing. My opportunity to volunteer as a KEYS mentor, which got me the opportunity to see what it looks like in some of our schools that have a little bit more challenges, and to understand why we need to make sure that we're wrapping our arms around those schools as well and supporting those students. Katy ISD has a great literacy rate and has a history of having really great accountability scores. But we also have kiddos in schools here that don't have those scores, and that we need to make sure they're leaving our schools prepared to have successful lives, regardless if they decide to go on to college or a career or the military. We want to make sure that we're supporting those children as well. As an educator, I was a classroom teacher. I started out Teach for America when I graduated from college, and I continued on in my teaching career. I started out in middle school, went down to early elementary, and I will tell you, kindergarten and pre-K is my jam. I love teaching the little ones, and I believe when we can provide a strong foundation for our little ones and support our teachers, then we can make anything possible for our students. I believe that Katy has had a great start, but I believe there's an opportunity for so much more, especially if we can support our teachers, we can support our students, and we can provide a platform for our parents to have a voice in our children's education.
As I said, I moved to Katy in 1978. My newly divorced mother moved me from Florida, from the white sandy beaches of Florida, to Rice, Farmington. And I was an 8th generation Floridian, and here I am, I don't know anyone. And my mom will tell you 44 years later, it's probably the best decision she ever made for her kids. And she laughs because we're all still here. We all threatened to leave when we graduated, and we all stayed here. When I went to Katy High School, I was struggling as a student because the Florida schools were not as advanced as Katy. And I had a lot of very good teachers who pulled me under their wing. I didn't know anyone, and it really became a safe harbor for me. I did well there academically, and I realized when I got into college how prepared I was. And my daughters have said the same thing. Dad, we didn't realize how prepared we were academically, socially, leadership-wise, compared to other schools. So I'm a big fan of Katy ISD. I feel like I got a lot from Katy ISD. I've actually written some of my former teachers and told them how much I appreciated what they gave me then that I didn't realize I was getting from them, and how far it's carried me in life. My son will be the 9th graduate of a Katy ISD school. So I feel like I've been very fortunate through hard work to be in a place in my life where I was able to run for the school board and get back. There was a lot of tension in the community and frankly on the school board when I first ran. And I feel like I've tried to give back some stability to that and serve my community. And I've really enjoyed meeting the students and having the connection with the teachers and helping the community when they had a problem. So that's really why I ran and why I decided to run again. Thank you. I'll take that. Oh, I see, I keep forgetting.
It's okay. Please, let's have a round of applause for everybody.
Thank you all very much for telling your Katy ISD story. All right, we're moving on to question number 2. Once again, if you need me to repeat this, just please ask me to do so. This kind of is a 2-part question here, but I want to know, what is your why? Please share the why behind your decision to run for the Katy ISD School Board, and maybe a few examples of how you've supported the district in the past. So, why are you doing this? What was your decision behind running? And please share an example of how you've supported the district in the past. We're going to start with Dr. Markowitz and pass it on down, just like we did.
So, like I've said, education is the most pivotal element of my entire life. My dad, also an oil worker, was traveling out of town a lot. My mom, unfortunately, suffered with addiction, and school was a safe haven for me. I went to school and I appreciated the compassion that teachers provided and the learning that they provided and the guidance that they provided. And I would wait every day once I got home from school for the next day to start, so I could go back into the classroom and learn some more and get some more guidance from these amazing people who have dedicated their life to improving the lives of others. I never expected myself to become a teacher because one of my mother's constant phrases was, those who can do, those who can't teach. But I think that's a common misnomer. I think teachers are perhaps the most pivotal actors in our society, because without teachers, we would have no other professions existing. We would have nobody able to be doctors, lawyers, bus drivers, food service people, because the teachers are the ones who train them all. And I want every student to feel that way. I want every student to wake up excited to go to school instead of dreading to go to the classroom each morning. And I've been working with students in KISD, some of whom are here tonight, throughout the past few years to make sure their voices are heard and their concerns are heard. Because at the end of the day, the school is there to serve the students, right? These are the people who are going to be the future leaders of this country. And if we don't take the time to actually serve the students and listen to them, then we failed them completely. So I am running for students, parents, teachers, and I want everybody to make sure their voice is heard. Thank you.
Mr. Perez?
Thank you. I'm running because I'm passionate about the children. I'm passionate about our grandchildren and all children in Katy, to give them a better education, to protect them. And I also want to support our teachers, and I want to be a voice for parents to the school board. I don't think that's been happening lately. I want to be a voice for parents on the school board and to represent the community. I want to be an advocate for teachers, an advocate for parents, an advocate for taxpayers. So I want to be an advocate. You know, that's the role of the board, is to be basically the oversight over the district, over the superintendent, and to be an advocate and be responsible, if you will, as trustees, be responsible to the community. That's our role. So I want to protect the kids. I want to protect the kids from early sexualization of the kids. I want to protect them from that. And I also want to protect them from certain ideologies. I want to protect them from just leave the kids, let them be children. Let children be children. I want to protect the kids. I want to support our teachers. They need our help. They're overworked and underpaid. And I want to improve education, whether that be special ed, whether that be STEAM, whether that be reading programs, whether that be the underperforming schools and the underperforming segments of our students. That's why I'm running. I'm passionate to represent the community on the board and speak for the parents, speak for the taxpayers, speak for the teachers.
Sir?
Thank you. I would get up from my chair, but I'm afraid I might show because I am a little clumsy. My why. Historically, I stand on the shoulders of amazing giants, and those giants are my parents. They were the first to graduate from college in their family. And that little piece of paper made a world of difference on the trajectory of my family. From there, I had gone on and graduated from college. I had a master's, and I wouldn't have been able to do that had it not been amazing education for my parents and the amazing teachers that I had, who understood that great education is not just about academics. It's about the environment that we provide for our children, and that we provide a safe space where they're loved on, they're cared for, and they're provided amazing experiences that help to show them the world. So that's number one. That's my first why. The other why is because I'm an educator. I started out teaching when I graduated from college. I still put my toe in the classroom, like that's volunteer during the height of COVID, where I helped to sub for the school district that I work for. If you've ever taught in a kindergarten classroom, particularly during a pandemic, you will understand the challenges that our teachers are going through. This year is hard. Last year was hard. This year is even harder, y'all. So I'm running because I want to support our teachers. They went to school, they got certified, they went into a profession that they love and they believe in, and it's mission-driven work. And I think right now they're not feeling that supported. So I'm running for them as well, as a fellow educator. I'm also running because I'm a parent, and I believe that parents should have a voice in how their children are educated. But there needs to be a platform that's appropriate, that builds connection between teachers and school leaders and board members, where we can have uncomfortable conversations, and we can come to conclusions, and we can do it in a civil manner. I know it's possible. I know we can do it. That's why I'm running. And lastly, I'm running because I believe in transparency. I believe if you're a board member, I know there's some things that need to be held in closed session, but you know, a lot of those conversations and debate discussion can happen in the public, and I think that the community, parents, and teachers need to be able to see that.
Okay. The reason I ran the first time was one, education is the key to a lot of things. And my grandfather was a coal miner. If you would have ever told my grandfather I would get a doctorate of laws, he would have said no way. There's only one way I could do that. It's through what I got at Katy High School and my continuing education. And it's the same thing for vocational. Not everybody has to go to college. That's one of the things we tell kids. Well, they don't all have to go to college. Even if you're going to go into vocational, you're going to go into the military, whatever you're going to do, education is the key. And our kids get that as a basic foundation through the schools. You know, my kids are the same way. I was very thankful for the education they got here at Katy High School. I was very thankful for what my teachers gave me. I also decided to run because I heard a lot of frustration in the community, a lot of frustration about transparency, communication with the school district, communication with the board. And I felt like with my background in leadership in the Army and being an attorney and my advocacy skills and my, still not high enough, okay, and advocacy skills as a lawyer and negotiation, that I could lend something to serving as a school board member. And I think we've done that. I think we have very good communication, and we continue to improve that communication with the community. As my wife tells me, I get too many emails from the school district, and I tell her, no, you don't get too many emails from the school district. What have I done in Katy? I've done a lot of volunteering at the schools. I've been involved with the PTAs. I serve on the Educational Foundation, which is a shameless plug, but that's an incredible organization. So, and I'm a former cheer dad in the school district, so I've also done that. Thank you.
Round of applause. Thank you very much. It's always great to hear your why. Sometimes it's tough when you're a trustee because there's so many different layers there, and so I appreciate hearing what you all have to say. So we're going to start with Mr. Perez. Here's the third question. Please share with us the role of a Texas School Board trustee in their responsibilities to the Katy community.
Thank you. As I was mentioning earlier, the role of a trustee is basically to be the protector. One role that I see is to be the protector on behalf of the community, to be the protector of the district in terms of the assets of the district, and to really be the steward of the resources the district has. That's one big responsibility. They call it trustee for a reason, and that is there's a lot of trust. We have a fiduciary responsibility for the community. We have a fiduciary responsibility. It's a big responsibility. We also have responsibility to direct, not manage day to day, but direct and manage and oversight for the superintendent. Because the buck really stops with the the Board of Trustees. The buck really stops there. It's the Board of Trustees that is responsible for delivering the educational product. That's really, a lot of times, we tend to diminish what the Board of Trustees does or can do, but it's really the Board of Trustees that the community is looking to. And the Board of Trustees needs to be accountable and be responsive to parents and to taxpayers, and really take seriously that oversight responsibility. And really, it's like the Board of Directors and the CEO. The Board of Directors are accountable. It's just like the Board of Directors. The Board of Directors are accountable to all stakeholders in the community, the teachers, the parents, and be responsive to them, and make sure that we're delivering a quality project, a product of the community, and we're accountable to the community. So that's how I view that role. It's a very important role, and I have no other ambition or agenda but to devote myself to that role. I'm retired, and I'm passionate about the children, about the teachers, and about improving education.
The role of the Board of Trustees. I would like to say the role of Board of Trustees is to, take Katy ISD from good to great to excellent, and even more so to make sure that the needs of all children are met so that they can be their highest self when they graduate from this amazing school district. How is that done? So you heard fiscal responsibility. How are we allocating our resources, and how are we making sure that our resources are reaching those who need it the most? How are we ensuring that our resources are going to the development of our teachers so that they can be better at their craft? How are our resources going to our schools and our school leaders so that they can make sure that they have the ability to have the curriculum, to have the programming that they know their students need so that they can be their highest self? So that's number one. The other one is to encourage and push and prod administration to be their best selves. It's to say and ask questions, say, hey, have you thought about, when you're looking at this policy, about those who live in the margins? Have you thought about those students that are on the other side of Katy that they may not have those same resources? Have you thought about those sped parents that need special courses, et cetera, that's going to help their children excel here? Are we thinking about the margins? So the board should be pushing the administration to think about all the members in our community on those subpopulations that may be quiet, that we may not hear. The role of the board is also to be the voice of the people, to be the voice of students, to be the voice of teachers and school leaders, parents, and the community. Board trustees have a very unique position. They're in a position where they are able to approve policies, approve budgets. They don't necessarily make them, but they do push for the changes in them, and they approve them. And so when you have the voices of the people, you understand what it is that those people are asking for, what their needs are, and it behooves Board of Trustee members to listen to that and to leverage that as they go into any kind of decision making to ensure that we are thinking about decisions based on all children, all families, all community members.
Being on the Board of Trustees is kind of a unique situation because you're a trustee of the business of the district. And so you have certain obligations to the district regarding what you do with the district and what you do with the information and how you conduct business. But on the other hand, you're elected by the community. And I really view Board of Trustees as representatives of the community. We're voted on the school board to be representatives of the community, and we have to stand up for election every 3 years, and the community gets to decide who continues to serve. I also think it's important for the trustees to be available to the community. We get a lot of emails about things that people have concerns about, and we forward them to the different people in the district who can answer those. You'll sometimes hear, oh, the trustees do not respond to me. Well, that's not entirely true. When we get a question, we forward it to the appropriate people, and the people in the district respond. So don't feel like the trustees are not responding to you. They're actually trying to send the question to the person who may have the information. I think it's important for trustees to have ask difficult questions. There are times when the trustees will say, why is this happening? I want to know why this is happening. What is the reasoning behind that? Sometimes there's a perfect legitimate reason for it, or a reason why it's done. Other times the district will listen and say, we're going to shift it a little bit. For example, the board policies were just updated. We spent a lot of time updating those so we could better communicate with the community and satisfy what the community needs. So it's very important to understand that we supervise the superintendent and we make sure he does his job, and we're not necessarily down in the weeds and everything. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Steve.
It's okay. So first and foremost, I think that the Board of Trustees has a fiscal responsibility to the community in which it serves. As we all know, the Board of Trustees sets the tax rates and property tax rates, and I'm sure many of you saw your appraisals come in that were 20% higher than normal, and so you probably don't want to see another property tax increase, which means that we need to take a look at the current expenses and see what's actually going on with the existing contracts and see if we can actually save some money off the top of those, renegotiate, and see if we can be more fiscally prudent. I also think that first and foremost, in addition to the fiscal responsibility, we need a Board of Trustees that is both accountable and transparent in their actions to the community. There has been a lot of discussion about current board members not answering questions or not providing reasons for why certain actions are made. And I think it's imperative that as elected officials by the community, that transparency and accountability exists between board members and the community that they serve. I believe that it's also imperative that the Board of Trustees does everything in their power to improve the morale of teachers. It wasn't too long ago that teachers were hailed as heroes during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and now they're once again being villainized as not doing enough. The Board of Trustees also has a very large role in choosing the policies that we enact within KISD, such as literacy initiatives. A few months ago, well, for the past year, there's been a push to get rid of the Fountas and Pinnell and units of study reading literacy initiatives because over 45% of our second and third graders don't meet grade level. So we need our Board of Trustees to implement changes that are going to improve the educational outcomes for all of our students in the district.
Thank you all very much. I wanted to make the point that all of these questions have, these candidates have not seen these questions before. It's the first time that they've seen these. So just to give you some context as we work through this evening. So my style is a little bit different how I do this. And so I want to share with you through my lens what the job of a trustee is, which is to approve the budget, hire the superintendent, and either create or approve policy at the district level. But probably one of the most important things that a trustee does is advocates on behalf of Texas public education on the state level. Katy ISD is a very, very large district, and they have the opportunity to inform your elected officials on what it is that's important with Texas education. So anyhow, thank you all very much for your answers. I think that there was a lot of information there. We're going to move along to our next question. I'm going to skip over one here because I think this is important. I want to get this in. But is our current, first off, let's see here, who's going to be, so Mr. Keller is going to be first, and then we're going to pass it on down the line. Is our current state accountability system accurately and effectively evaluating our schools and communities here in Katy? Could state and accountability ratings have an impact on the Katy economy? If so, please share some examples. I have 2 minutes, sir.
When you say accountability ratings, you're speaking of the standardized tests.
Correct. Yeah.
So, we hear a lot about standardized tests. My son got in the car the other day and he said, I love this week because it's the week we learned how to take the test. And I looked at him and he kind of clammed up a little bit and then he realized what he said. Understandably, there's a lot of frustration with standardized tests, and we got to have some measure of accountability. The question is what we're doing now the best measure of it? And I hear from a lot of teachers who get very frustrated because they can be held accountable through the test scores, and they do all they can to teach what needs to be taught to the students, and they can't necessarily control what that student does on that one particular day that they take this test. So we really do need to look at is there a better way to do this? I think there's always going to be some measure of accountability test at the state level. And frankly, let's be honest, part of it is because politicians want to cover themselves and want to say they've done something. But part of the result is it really overburdens our teachers. Our teachers are really overburdened by extra work from that. I do think, to some measure, it could affect the Katy economy. A lot of people move here for the schools. I mean, that's why they move here. That's why they try to get here to get into the schools. And if you have a school district that's not doing as well, you don't have the people come here as often. They don't buy as many houses here. They may not relocate their business here. So you can see some of the school districts that struggle and what happened in those areas, both from population and economics. So yes, I do believe that lower test scores could affect the Katy area economy. Who's next? Dr. Martin.
Anybody who has ever heard me talk before knows that I think standardized testing is a completely invalid and unreliable metric of student achievement and teacher aptitude. I believe that using the A through F system based on standardized test scores is a complete waste of the $90 million plus that Texas spends on actually the creation and distribution and scoring of these standardized tests that could be funneled into, I don't know, actually improving educational outcomes for our students, giving teachers the support services they need in order to improve the educational outcomes of these students. And so I think it's completely invalid that we are spending such an inordinate amount of money on a test. If we saw any other corporation, billion-dollar corporation like Katy ISD, put funding down to the whims of 8 and 9-year-olds on one day a year for a 3-hour period for a one-shot high-stakes test, there would be some serious remanagement going on there, restructuring of the management, because it's simply not a reliable metric. If we are to actually create an educational system that prepares students to be productive members of the global society in which we live, we need to share a wide depth and breadth of different viewpoints. We need them to be exposed to real world issues that they're going to face once they move on to college, the workforce, or military. But simply teaching to a test according to the TEKS, which have been described as a mile wide and an inch deep, is simply a disingenuous way of measuring student achievement and teacher aptitude. Instead, we should go back to ESSA, the Elementary Schools and Secondary Act, which allows for more subjective measurements of student outcomes, and then allow teachers to actually, do their job in assessing student outcomes instead of having a state standardized test do what teachers are already qualified to do.
We have to have a better system. I don't know of anyone, teachers or parents or students, that likes the standardized testing. It is an absolute sham, and it's a coordinated sham between school districts and the TEA. When you only need 40% to pass in math and science, it's an absolute, that's a shame. And so what happens is that everybody compares themselves to how they did, and it's all inflated. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of, like, I'm concerned that we're continuing to dumb down these tests and the results in order to get more kids to pass and so to look good in our ratings. So I think it's an absolute sham. We need to come up with a better system. I also want to add that I would not be running today. I didn't have any plans to run, any long-term plans. All I decided to run sometime in January. If I felt like the school board today was being responsive to the parents and was hearing the parents and addressing certain concerns that the parents have, the school board would not be responsive. It's not enough to just pass around emails. We need to hear results. Parents speak out and then they hear nothing. I would be running today if the school board was responsive and the district was responsive to parents. That's why I'm running.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that no one likes tests. No one likes tests. As a teacher, I remember being held accountable to the test. And it's very challenging where I was teaching, where your students were in what we call the first quartile in reading, which basically meant they were 7th graders who could not read. But yet I was being judged according to what the results were on their test. However, I will say there's a necessary evil to testing. Can we have a better testing system? Absolutely. But we do need to have some kind of measure to understand, universally across the state of Texas, how our schools and how our classrooms are doing with regards to academics. What I would propose, however, is that we need to provide a greater emphasis on growth versus achievement. And what I mean by that is particularly for teachers that are teaching in Title I schools where there's a lot of ground they need to cover. And right now, it's not just Title I schools, it's all of our schools. Because right now, we're predicting that students coming out of COVID are 2 years behind. And there is no way, even the most rock star teachers is going to be able to get their kiddos 2 years by the end of the school year. Start testing is right around the corner. So we need to look at growth. How are our students growing academically? And I know, Tessie, for STAR, there's a percentage that's attributed to growth. I think it needs to be at least 50%. So we need to look at how our teachers in our schools growing our students academically, and are we seeing growth in their achievement throughout the year? So I think that's one way to look at it. I think another reason why we need to look at testing is because we need to prepare our students for SAT and AC testing. I know some schools are no longer utilizing that, but however, our students that come from underserved communities need to have that SAT and ACT score, and they need to do well because there's a lot of merit-based aid that comes from those scores. So, it's very important. We need to make sure that we service those children, make sure they're ready to do well on those tests as well. As a parent, I get it. I know how nervous it feels, especially if you have a kid that doesn't test well and know they can't graduate if they don't pass that EOC. Super stressful, but however, I think we need to look more at more at growth versus achievement in order to see if someone passes.
Thank you very much. All of you had some great answers. Dr. Taylor, I was going to make a Dr. Taylor, Ms. Taylor, excuse me. You said exactly what I was going to say, which was there likely needs to be some type of a system of accountability. Maybe it should look like a local accountability system, where we need to measure growth. And the reality of it is, if we focus on our growth, testing would be easy. And I've experienced that. I've actually seen some schools that were very, very high-performing schools, great schools, but they were F schools because of the state accountability system. And absolutely it affects your local economy. Who wants to work at an F school? Who wants to go to an F school? Or who even wants to move in a neighborhood with an F school? Regardless of how well they do as far as growth, one grade does not judge how well a school is doing. So there needs to be some system, but maybe it needs to look a little bit different. So that's my 2 cents. The next question, as you probably heard a lot about this, is the teacher pipeline. We all know this is a discussion. The teacher pipeline is a difficult subject. All over the state, there are discussions and reports around it about recruitment and retention issues. And here's part of the question here, how has this epidemic impacted Katy ISD as far as teachers are concerned? And how would you support Katy ISD administration in tackling this nationwide issue, Dr. Markowitz?
So as you noted, this is a nationwide pandemic of itself, or epidemic, where we've seen a teacher shortage across the state and across the country. Unfortunately, we haven't seen anything being done within this district to actually improve the way that we recruit, retain, and ensure that the morale of our educators is at a high bar. I know that I've spoken to many teachers in Katy ISD who are fearful of retaliation if they were to speak out at the board meeting. They're fearful that if they are to buck the system, they will be let go. And I think that that's a culture of fear that's being instilled within the district that is simply unacceptable. As I said earlier, teachers 2 years ago were hailed as heroes, and now we see them being dragged through the mud for simply attempting to do their job. We need to do everything in our power to ensure that teachers want to teach. We need to provide them with the support and resources they need in order to ensure these high educational outcomes that we've all been touting. And we all wish to see Katy ISD continue to tout in the years to come. If we don't improve the way that we retain our teachers, we're going to see the quality of our schools continue to slide, and we're going to see the local Katy economy continue to fall, or begin to fall and falter accordingly. As Mr. Burdine said a moment ago, nobody wants to move to a district that has F schools, and nobody wants to move to a district where their students aren't receiving a high quality education. whether that regards special education or whether that regards literacy or whether it's the number of AP classes an individual can take. We need to make sure that we're providing our teachers with the tools and resources so that they want to begin teaching. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see the 50% dropout rate of first-year teachers once they enter the classroom.
I think this is maybe the biggest issue that Katy ISD has today. And I'm ringing, this is a crisis situation, and I don't see the urgency at the board and at the administration to solve this problem. Yes, we have a problem with attrition, with teachers leaving the profession nationwide and in Texas. But I think, for example, here, we pay our teachers less than any of the surrounding districts. I calculated roughly that our payroll would need to increase by 3.3% on average to equate to the surrounding districts. The difference is about 2.5% on the low end and more like 5% on the high end. So we're fighting this battle with our hands tied behind our back. Our teachers, the morale is low. One of the things I first did when I announced running, was having focus groups for teachers, coffees, breakfast, meetings at my house, etc., to really get input. And I can tell you that the departure of teachers from Katy ISD is getting ready to really accelerate from everything I'm hearing. They're burned out, they're overloaded with excessive paperwork from the district. They're not getting the support. They need help on discipline. Discipline is a huge issue, and there's concern about their safety and the safety of kids. Discipline needs to be addressed by the campus leaders, by the principals and assistant principals. They need to help the teachers. We also need to make sure we provide robust funding for SPED, for special education, because that really, the teachers need help in the classroom with special education. So if you have discipline problems, if you have stretched resources as far as special education, and then if you have a teacher that's overloaded with paperwork, then that is a recipe for disaster. To have low morale of the teachers. We need to really support our teachers and help them and attract teachers and lower the classroom sizes.
Thank you. Definitely, I think we have issues with recruitment, retention, engagement. So I'll address it in a couple different ways. So first of all, recruitment. I think we need to become innovative. Where are we finding our pipelines? Are we leveraging our Katy ISD alumni and saying, hey, I see you're an education major, come back home, come teach for Katy, and having programs that make it a little bit easier for them to get into our district and work and come back to their schools and work with them. So that's one innovative way in terms of recruitment. In terms of engagement and retention, what kind of experience are we providing for our teachers right now? I mean, obviously, yes, a pay raise, definitely appreciated. Unfortunately, I don't think we can actually meet what inflation is. I think inflation is going to be about 8%. I don't know of any school district that's going to be able to provide 8% COLA raise. Hopefully they are considering providing a raise. There needs to be something, but it's not going to match inflation. So we've got to think about how can we increase teacher engagement in order so that we can retain them. One way is, and it's one thing that I think Katy ISD this year, is they created what I like to call a Rest and Wellness Day. They put a new calendar date, they put a day in the calendar that it was a teacher day off. It wasn't a PD day, it wasn't a virtual instruction day, it was a day that teachers actually got to get off. And I know they appreciated that little thing of having an unanticipated day off where they could just do whatever they wanted to do, they could rest, they could renew. So I think we need to look at more innovative ways like this to tell teachers that we care about them and we want to keep you. We want to make sure that you're refreshed and ready to come back and teach our kids. Also, I think in terms of just supporting our teachers, our new teachers, being a brand new teacher is extremely challenging. So I think we need to leverage our master teachers, our teachers who have been around for more than 5 years, to come and figure out some system where they're provided a stipend, some time is taken off from them actually being in the classroom, where they can come and they can help support our young teachers so they'll stay and they'll understand the beauty of the profession and they feel well prepared and well equipped to teach their students.
Thank you. I don't know anyone who wants to pay teachers less. And I think we can all agree our teachers should make more. And while everybody in the district is important, the teachers actually are at the front line of providing the service of why school districts are here. And this is a national thing. It's not just in Katy. While we hate to lose any teacher, unfortunately, when we do lose teachers,
every year we get more than we lose. And again, it's not good to lose any. But the point of saying that is teachers do want to be in Katy ISD. It's a good school district. Are there things we can correct? Of course. We've tried to correct them by doing several things. We've given 2% raises over the last couple of years. We took a attendance bonus program and shifted to a permanent 1% raise. We are implementing a program for the new teacher incentive allotment where if teachers get certain merit increases, they can get permanent increases in their pay. This is something we need to address in Austin as well. And it's not just pay for the teachers, it's the workload. We need to address in Austin the extra workload that are burdening our teachers. So there's a lot of things we can do. We're in the process, I believe, of implementing a system for feedback from the teachers. There should not be a teacher in this district who's worried about bringing a problem forward and being retaliated against. It's unacceptable. I'm not aware of that happening, but again, that should never happen. And the teachers should be very comfortable coming forward if they have a problem because, again, everyone in the district is important, but the teachers are a very, very important resource for what they do every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a really tough question, as you all stated, but I'll tell you something, and you all know this, but the teaching profession has changed over the years. We are now dealing with locally, statewide, nationwide, with more societal issues that teachers are having to bear the burden of, which makes it very difficult when you're trying to educate children. I'm fully confident that Katy ISD has always been focused on student achievement. Although we can all do a better job of attracting new teachers. And so part of that, in my opinion, of course, is those partnerships with the universities. I think that that's important. And I know that Katy ISD is working with the University of Houston. So continue to encourage that. That is great. And then all of us in this room are guilty of this at some point, but we run down teachers and educators. And who wants to work in a profession where everyone runs you down? I know education could be better, and there's some system that says that we're ranked at some level against countries who continue to have the same test year after year after year after year. But guess what? People come from all over the world to get educated here in the Fort Bend County area. All over the world. And so that speaks volumes to how good we do, but we can always do better. As a trustee, we can focus on giving that budget so that you can be innovative, right? So your job is to educate children, but at the same time, you have to allocate a budget to be creative and do something different. And we need to encourage teachers, not put them down. So it's a tough job. Here's the next question, Dr. Markowitz, you'll start off. Should publicly funded charter schools operate and function by the same set of rules as districts like Katy ISD?
Absolutely. Yeah. No. I don't think that charter schools have in this state been given the ability to receive public taxpayer money without being held to the same accountability standards as public schools. And I think that's a travesty on multiple fronts. I think it's unfortunate to the taxpayers themselves who are putting money forth that is going to charter schools which do not serve the entirety of the public. For example, if the charter school does not have transportation options or does not have the ability to work with special needs children, they can simply not accept those individuals into the charter school. And so I think if we are going to call something public, then it truly must serve the public. I think if we could recoup a lot of the money that is going out of public schools if we were to stop funding charter schools. Because quite frankly, what we're doing is splitting that funding. And so we say on the one hand, oh my, we don't have enough money for our public schools. And then we say at the state level, oh, but we're going to allow the State Board of Education to approve these charter schools, which is going to take more money without being held to the same accountability standards. So I think that's a major problem we need to work with. If we were to, again, stop funding charter schools, which, you know, if you want to send your child to a charter school, that is all well and good. If you want to send them to a private or a parochial school, that's amazing. But the taxpayer money should not follow the student to those schools because it is not a public entity. And again, teachers in charter schools don't have to hold the same certifications, they don't have to hold the same STAR test, accountability ratings, and so therefore they should not be privy to the same taxpayer money that every other taxpayer is putting out for public education.
You know, and I think that taxpayers are paying taxes. The people that send their kids to private schools, the people who send their kids to charter schools, the people who send their kids to public schools are all paying taxes. We're all paying taxes. And the key is to make sure that those taxes are being used wisely. Now, I know that the district is getting a lot of waivers, if you will, or amendments, a district of innovation, you know, for being able to increase class sizes or lower certifications for teachers. So some of those requirements are being loosened, if you will, for the public schools for the district. But I think that I'm actually for school choice, and that we have taxpayers that are paying for the public school. We have taxpayers that are paying that are sending their kids to private school and charter school, but they're still taxpayers. And I want to mention one other thing about the teachers. The teachers got a 1% raise, while the superintendent got an 8% raise, and that is bad for morale. Now we say that it was 2%, but in reality, it was a 1% raise and a 1% bonus. And we know that bonus probably is used to pay off credit cards, and people only live off that 1% raise. That's totally unacceptable, and that decreases the morale of the teachers. The teachers feel disrespected, and we need to really address the teachers quickly and lift them up, their morale. We need to support them. We need to support them from a discipline standpoint, from a pay standpoint, all around, across the board. We need to support our teachers. They are the key to education. And the campus leaders and the teachers that are on the front line, we need to really address them and help them as soon as possible. And we need some urgency about that because this is critical.
Thank you. There are great public ISDs, there are great charters, there are bad charters, and then there are bad public ISD schools. Full transparency, I work for one of the largest public charter schools in the state, and I'm going to bust some myths here. We are held to the same level of accountability, A through F. The difference is we can be closed within 3 years. So our accountability is much higher. Public charter schools do not receive facility funding, so we don't receive the same funding as regular ISD schools. That's a challenge. So how do we go about building our buildings and taking care of our kids? I believe that school choice is going to exist as long as there is not a great school in every feeder pattern in every neighborhood for all children. And right now, that's the reality. And the reality is, particularly for the population that we service, which is about 91% free and reduced lunch, under-resourced communities, there are great public school opportunities. And we need to make sure that they are provided a great academic pathway like our kids here at Katy ISD are provided. We want all children to succeed. We want all children, all families to feel that they have a school that cares about them. So, that's my myth busting. In terms of like what we have there. I want to go back to like this notion of raises for teachers. A 1% raise, I think if you got a 1% raise, I don't know how big of a difference that's going to make for you. I don't know how big of a 2% raise is going to make for you, other than it might make you have to pay more in taxes. Ideally, we can give our teachers more. I don't know if that's financially possible or fiscally possible, but I think there's something that we really need to look into. And if we're not able to do that, then we definitely need to be looking at what are the innovative ways that we can make our teachers feel supported, make them feel loved, to know that the district cares about them.
I do agree that charter schools serve a certain purpose, and there's certain areas that they serve that might need that service. But I do believe since they're taking some level of state funds, they should have similar accountability. Some kids, studies show some kids won't even apply to those schools because they don't think they will get into school. And so I do think there should be more accountability there. If I can, let me be clear, I don't think a 1% raise for teachers is sufficient. I was just giving the example of some of the things we've tried to do in the last couple of years to raise teacher pay. We're also looking into doing a TRE where bonds could be passed if a public approves it, that would give teachers raises. So I'm just trying to offer an example of, again, can't imagine there's anyone who doesn't think we should pay our teachers more. And we're looking at every avenue we can to try to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please applause. We're going to move on to our last question for the evening. And this one's a really fun one here. We're going to start with Mr. Perez. So, if the outcome of this election cycle does not conclude a victory for you, in what ways will you show support for the person who wins this position?
That's a good one. By the way, I'm Cuban and I can only use one hand here too, so I apologize for scrimping my style. So, if that were to happen, I would continue to work hard to represent the parents and the children and speak out for things that I think need to be changed, regardless of whether win or lose. I'm not going to go away. I'm going to continue to speak out. Now, I wouldn't hold any ill will towards whoever wins at all. But I will be addressing the board regularly. I will be speaking about issues. I will be speaking about improper material getting into the schools that shouldn't be, the early sexualization of kids. I will be speaking about identity politics getting into the classroom that shouldn't be there. I will support the teachers, continue to support teachers. I will continue to speak out for reading programs, for better education. And so my approach would be, I wouldn't be going away. I would still be active and speaking out on behalf of parents and the community. That would be still my role. I wouldn't be going away. I would be definitely dedicated to taking that role. You know, I even though I have this history in Katy, we moved here in 1990, where there were only 3 high schools. I'm considered a kind of a sort of a new person or a new name or what have you. Well, so be it that I be considered an outsider. That's fine. I want to be a voice, a new voice, and a new set of eyes.
Thank you. If I was so unfortunate to not win, I'd run again. So I definitely would have plans to run again. But in the meanwhile, I want to have my footprint greater in Katy. I would take the time, take the next year to volunteer more in our schools and in organizations. Part of the process of this entire campaign experience is I got to meet some amazing organizations that do some great volunteer work here in Katy. They do great work in our schools, so I definitely take advantage of that. I'm now an empty nester. My youngest is in college, so now I have that time where instead of being a PTA mom, I can just be a volunteer in Katy, so I definitely plan on doing that. I'm definitely being more active in what's going on with the board. I don't want a very loud minority of group of people to make decisions based on all of our students. I want to make sure that we have decisions that are based on what's best for everyone, decisions that keep our children safe, decisions that support our teachers, decisions that make Katy ISD from good to great to excellent. So that's definitely my plan. I don't know how I can support my colleagues here. I would love to be a sounding board. I have a very long experience in school administration as well as in working with schools. I have a great background in curriculum. I know what to do on bad weather days and what type of guardrails you need to have around that. I know how to do school budgets. I would definitely love to be a sounding board if that's wanted or needed. But I definitely plan on still being around, supporting our Katy ISD schools and supporting our community.
If I lose, I'm selling my house and I'm moving away.
I did a lot of things in the community before I was on the board. I served on the Katy Youth Basketball Board for 5 years. I volunteered at my kids' schools. This has never been about me, and I've said that all along. It's about our school district, and there will be a point that I won't be on the board, be it now or later on. So I'll continue to do the things I've done. I told my wife yesterday, if I lose, I have no animosity against anybody running, because they're probably doing it for the same reasons I want to do it. But whoever, if I lose, I'll take whoever wins to lunch. And I've got 5 years of experience on the board. I've learned a lot. I have a much different perspective than I did when I was running. And I would be happy to sit down with whomever's going to serve on board, be it in my position or somewhere else, and talk to them about my experience, talk to them about my perception after having served for 3 years, and continue to support my community, because that's really what it's about. Thank you. I'll keep repeating that one.
So first of all, I want to thank all of the candidates who are running, because this is a thankless job, running for office, and it requires a lot of dedication, and it's exhausting. So thank you to everyone who is running. Anyone who's lived in Katy since 2017 knows that a loss doesn't scare me. I just keep come back fighting, and I fight longer, and I fight harder, and I fight stronger than I did the previous time. And I imagine that I will still continue fighting, much to my father's chagrin, if I am to lose this battle. Because it's not about me. I'm not in it for power and prestige. I'm definitely not in it for the money. Because quite frankly, this is an exhausting volunteer position, as are every other position I've ran for. But I'm in it for education, and I'm in it to make sure that every child in this district has a high-quality public education that prepares them to be productive members of the society in which we live in. We need to ensure that all of our students are exposed to a wide breadth and depth of issues that face everyday individuals, and we need to make sure that all students, again, regardless of religion, race, socioeconomic status, zip code, are provided with equitable resources. Equity is the key to success. And if we can make sure that everybody ends up graduating from Katy ISD on a level playing field so that they can go out and be that productive citizen of this world and then come back and share what they've learned and put into the Katy economy, then the Katy ISD school district has done its job. And so I will keep fighting, and I will keep representing those who are for high quality public education for all and exposure to a wide breadth and depth of ideas.
That will conclude our questions. We're going to move on to our 1-minute closing remarks, starting with Mr. Keller. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Again, I want to thank the chamber and everyone for attending tonight, and everyone who's watching on Facebook. Everybody's here because we care about our community, and I think it makes our community better. That's why our schools are so good. I was telling somebody the other day, all the namesakes that are still involved in our schools and our community members, that's what makes our schools great. I've worked very hard as a board member, and I've worked very hard to do what I said I would do. And people don't always agree with me, but I always try to do what I think is right. And I've asked some tough questions, and I feel like I've made a difference. And so I'm asking if you feel like I've done a good job to allow me to continue to serve. And again, if unfortunately I lose, I do want to say it was an honor serving, and I appreciate the community support. And we all need to continue to work together for our schools. Thank you.
I have no illusions that everybody in this room agrees with me and my ideas. However, I am more than willing to sit down with any individual and discuss their concerns and their questions and come to a common ground where we can actually create viable solutions that will ensure equity across the school district and be in the best interest of all the students, teachers, and parents in this district. If you want to talk to me, my phone number is 281-785-0432. For everyone live streaming out there, you can call me day or night, send a text, carrier pigeon, small kitten with a note, whatever works. If you go to ELIZ4TX, ELIZ, number 4TX.com, you can read my entire platform. And again, I am more than willing to discuss any issue with anybody at any time. The only thing I request is that we have civil discourse, because bullying and belittling gets us nowhere. I hope to serve you, and let's go get this done, team.
Thank you, and thank you to the chamber for putting this on. Thank you to everyone. You know, I just want to say, first of all, I don't think the board today is asking tough questions, number one. Number two, the teachers, we need to find the money for the teachers. We can find the money for everything else, but when it comes to teachers, then we ask, where are we going to get the money? I just want to bring that up because we need to find the money for the teachers. It's there. We just need to give it to the teachers and reallocate it. As I mentioned earlier, I'm retired, and really my why are the kids, the grandkids, all the kids. Two of them are sitting right here. I'm passionate about protecting them. I'm passionate about improving their education. I'm passionate about their safety, and I'm doing this just for the kids. I have no other ambition, no other agenda, but to do it, to improve education, and to do it for the children, for our future, the children's future, and our future as a community. And I want to represent the community. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to first thank you, the audience that came out here to listen to us on a Thursday evening. I'd like to thank my fellow candidates here, and especially Mr. Killer. Your job is a thankless job. You know, so I want to thank you for your service, regardless of the outcome of this election may be. Totally thankless job. I'd like to remind you, the listeners, virtually, as well as the audience, is if anything, go vote. We have 180,000 registered voters in Katy, but we have a historically low turnout for the board elections. Go out and vote. I would hope that you would consider voting for me, but if not, just go vote. Your vote matters. If you want to vote for me, just remember, you're voting for a mom, you're voting for an educator, you're voting for someone who believes in education and believes in education is not just great academics, but it's that environment that we're providing for our students. It's about how we're caring for our teachers, it's how we're caring for our school leaders, and it's also how we're ensuring that parents have a voice with their child's educational experience. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. This concludes our candidate forum for position 1 for the Katy ISD School Board. Thank you, candidates, for showing up this evening. It was nice to hear from all of you and for you to share your different visions and ideas. And at this time, we will finish the program with a few words from our fearless leader, President and CEO, Mr. Matthew Ferraro.
Thank you, Mr. Bergen, for serving as our moderator for this evening. Thank you to the Education Committee for providing strong programming for our chamber. Let's have one last round of applause for our candidate for position 1. Audience and Facebook Live viewers at home, please take 5 minutes as our next round of candidates for position 2 will start their forum. So 5-minute break, and then we'll be right back. Thank you.
Are there 3 for this one or 4? Okay.
Hey, this speaker is so much better than that other one. That's why. Miss Anderson, all candidates for position 1, 2, please come to the front. All candidates for position 2. We're going to get started, folks, in about 4 minutes.
It's already out there.
We're going to take some photos.
They're all in it. Yeah, everyone's good here.
All right, so we're going to do photos first.
You want me to take a peek at it?
Please take your seat. We're going to go ahead and get started here at 7:25. All right. Good evening. We are back for round number 2 for position 2 for the Katy ISD school board election. And for those of you who are just joining us, please make sure your cell phone is silenced. And I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jason Burdine, and I'm delighted to moderate the candidate forum this evening. Before we begin, let's review a few forum rules. This is being streamed on Facebook Live by the Katy Area Chamber of Commerce. A video recording of this forum will also be provided by the Katy Area Chamber on their Facebook page. Unauthorized videos are not allowed, and candidates may not use video for campaign purposes. Candidates were not provided these questions beforehand. This is the first time that they're hearing them. So all candidates are hearing these questions for the first time. They were sequestered in a private room in the back. Did y'all wrestle? So we took their phone and we put them in the back room. That way it would be fair for them to hear the questions for the first time. They didn't hear it. So there was even, we even checked the volume from here to back there. So it's all about being fair, and we thank you for being here. The candidates have been assigned a random speaking order within each office, and we will give you 1 minute for introduction, 2 minutes per question, and then 1 minute for a closing. So, please respond directly to the questions and talk about your own positions, not those of others or other candidates. So we will start this evening with our opening remarks. So, Ms. Anderson, please take 1 minute to introduce yourself. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Anderson. I have.
Well, you either. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Bonnie Anderson. I have 3 kids in Katy ISD. I spent a good part of my childhood here. I went to Hudson Elementary, Katy Junior High, moved around a bit, went to college in Massachusetts, moved around a bit more, moved back to Katy because of the great reputation for the district. Went to my first school board meeting a couple of years ago, left with more questions than I went in with, which brings me to why I'm running for trustee. I'm tired of watching parents being pushed out of schools. I'm tired of watching their rights over their children being trampled on. I'm tired of watching underpaid teachers leaving for surrounding districts. I'm tired of watching the detour from education to indoctrination. This school district is being run by an out-of-control superintendent and a corrupt attorney. And if the incumbent isn't courageous enough to stand up and remind the superintendent that he reports to the board and not the other way around, then I will happily do it.
Thank you to Katy Area Chamber for hosting us tonight. And hi everyone, my name is Patricia Haggard, and I'm running for position 2 for the Katy ISD Board of Trustees. I am a mom of 8 children. Some of them are back there in the back. Currently we have a high schooler in Katy ISD, 2 high schoolers, a middle schooler, and 2 elementary schools starting in the fall. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I have a concentration in child and adolescent development, and I'm working on my master's degree in social work with a concentration on social justice and policy. I have previous teaching experience that spans more than 15 years. I've taught both in classroom and online, pre-K, 3rd grade, ESL, and all the way up to 16-year-olds online as well. Thank you.
My name is Lance Redmond. I'm a lifelong Katy resident, born and raised here. Married my date to the senior prom at Katy High School, and early on in our marriage, she taught multiple campuses in the district. Got 3 kids. This next year will enter into a kind of crazy time for us because we'll have a elementary school, a junior high, and a high school all at the same time. So, as a product of Katy ISD, it prepared me to do my undergrad at Rice University and then graduate and work on my master's degree in Christian education at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. As a professional, I've served in pastoral roles here in Katy, served in Alzheimer's care, and currently I'm a small business owner that is in the construction materials industry. And so I've been honored to serve on the board for the past 3 years, and I hope that I'm chosen to serve in another 3 years. Thank you.
Let's please applause. Once again, let's please stay. Let's not mention others. Please, let's stay up and answer the question on what we are going to do and not what others or are doing. Thank you. Next Our first question, actually, please share your Katy ISD story with the audience. We'll start with Ms. Haggard.
Okay, so my Katy ISD story is probably pretty brief compared to some of y'all in here, but we moved into the Katy School District in 2014 when Randolph Elementary first opened its doors. So three of our kids had the honor of being the first students at Randolph Elementary. So we just have a soft place in our hearts for that. Right now we have, one in high school in 11th grade, one in high school in 9th grade, and all the way down to my youngest will be in the graduating class somewhere in Katy of 2035. So that's a big span, and I feel like I have a really vested long-term interest in the direction and the plans and the vision for the district moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Redmond.
Well, my Katy ISD story started in the kindergarten classroom at Cimarron Elementary. And spent a lot of time at the bus barn with my mom driving buses here in the district. As a mom that served as a PTA president, moved on to Westmoreland Junior High in 6th grade, and we relocated out here kind of more into Katy and Katy Junior High. Graduated from Katy High School. Had the ability or blessing to be able to be taught by a lot of people that these schools are named after. And to just have those values the city of Katy kind of put in me. Times confronted when I made bad decisions and Coach Johnson pulling you aside and saying, some choice words to you that just you heard differently, right? And so growing up in the district, it's been great. My wife taught in the district multiple schools, Kilpatrick and Holland and Molman, multiple different roles and grades. I've got 3 kids in the district, like I shared, Molman, Wood Creek Junior High, and Katy High School. And so I've also got 7 nieces and nephews that are around that are either currently in the district or will be soon. And so Katy ISD has been a huge part of my story, molding me into the man I am today. And it's just great to have the opportunity to return that blessing back.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Anderson?
I'm not going to tell a fluffy story. I'm just going to say that we need trustees who will protect parental rights, stand up for a high-quality traditional education, and hire and support great teachers. That's it.
Thank you all very much. Next question. Mr. Redmond, you're going to be first. What is your why? Please share the why behind your decision to run for the Katy ISD School Board. And if you could, share an example or two of how you supported the district in the past.
Why? Most of the time when this question has been asked over the 3 years, it's more like, why are you doing this? Not why are you doing this? For me, it comes down to 3 things: my faith, my family, and our future. And so my faith teaches that we should consider others better than ourselves, not looking at our own interests, but the interests of others. And so the idea of servant leadership has been ingrained in me by my parents, by this community. My family, I shared a little bit about that. 3 kids, ranging from going to be a freshman to currently a 3rd grader. And so there's still years and years left personally that we're going to be parents in this district, as well as family members that I shared, to the one that should be born sometime in the next couple of months and grow up. And so my faith, my family, and then our future. As a history buff and as a small business owner, I realized that our schools produce self-reliant, responsible citizens that we need to have. And so the school district is many times what does that in conjunction with the family. So my faith, my family, and our future.
Ms. Anderson, what is your why? And why are you running?
My why would always be my kids. I'm running, I guess, as a last-ditch effort. I want to say love the school district so many times. You know, it's still, I'm just going to keep repeating that it's about protecting parental rights. School districts don't have the right to advocate medical choices for kids or send out surveys. There's a survey that went out today to 6th grade and above that asked children if they felt bullied based on their sexual orientation or their gender identity. The school district does not have the right to talk to your kids about their sexual preferences or ask them which gender they feel like today. And so, again, just protect the parental rights, hire and retain great teachers, and stop the indoctrination. Just teach the students a high-quality traditional education. Just get back to it.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Howard. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So my why is also my children, my kids, your kids, all of our kids. And I, again, like I said a few minutes ago, I have a long-term vested interest in the direction of the school district. And I believe that my professional, my educational, and my personal experiences give me multiple lenses through which to view, to be able to view and assess and meet the needs of the kids in our schools and also of the teachers. I feel, I have a lot of relatable experience to other parents in the district. And I feel like the business of moving the district forward and providing the excellent, equal, and equitable education that all of our kids deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to question number 3. Please share with us the role of a Texas School Board trustee and their responsibilities to the community. Ms. Patricia Haggard, you're going to be first.
So I think the role of the Board of Trustees is to follow the guidelines that the TASB sets forth to us or to trustees. And the main roles are hiring the superintendent, providing insight and oversight also to that role. Other responsibilities are, we are stewards of your tax dollars. So we need to be accountable, we need to be transparent in how we spend those dollars, taxpayer money, other allocation of funds. I feel that we need to make the students, the teachers, and the classrooms the number one priority for where our money is spent. And I feel like that in recent years that hasn't been the case, and hopefully, moving forward, we'll have more transparency in our finances. And I think the school board is also responsible for maintaining open dialogue, honest dialogue, and communication with teachers, with parents, with the community, responding and addressing questions and concerns, and being a trustee, being to the people who elected us, we are entrusted to. Thank you.
Mr. Redmond? Can you repeat the question?
Please, let me know when you give this. So please share with us the role of a Texas School Board trustee and their responsibilities to the community.
Thank you. So the role of trustee, governance and oversight, and that comes down to 5 main things: vision, policies and procedures, budgets, overseeing the superintendent contract. The last one is communicating with the community, both local and at the state level. And so, yeah, that's what's laid out. And one of the things I'm excited about during this next, hopefully next term, is we're awarded a grant to participate in the trustee advocacy program. And so one of the things I felt as just a dad in the community was I didn't really know how to go and approach Austin or to even educated as far as what I needed to go say or what was best for our school district. And so fulfilling these roles, one of the things that 3 years ago as I ran from the street to the state, the idea of the state was that so much of what people were frustrated about was handed down from Austin. And as a district, we've never really been empowered to go share that. And so we started this past, 2 weeks ago, started this process to create an advocacy agenda with the community. A big part of that is some listening towards to kind of bring that in, and then create a plan to not just communicate it to Austin, but to communicate that to the community. To be able to say, these are the things we need to learn, these are the things that our district has said we want to have happen, and this is how you carry those out. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Sanders?
So, role of a trustee, fiduciary oversight is primary, which reminds me that last year, the current trustees, who may or may not be named, passed a $676 million bond, which put the district in an over-leveraged position. That's like being upside down in your house. Our assets are now worth less than our debt. So fiduciary oversight is first. And in addition to that, yeah, policies. So how about we have some policies? We have teachers in Katy ISD who openly, to media outlets, announced that they would be pushing CRT in their classrooms, critical race theory. Why don't we have a policy in Katy that says any teacher who does that in their classroom will be terminated? Why? The trustee is like the last line of defense for the students in the school district. So when we have a federal government pushing down mandates or offering money, like the $5 million ESSER funds that we took last year with masking children attached to it, and minimum 20% anti-white training for teachers attached to it. Yes, we did that. Trustees should be protecting the school district from bad federal policy. And trustees should be protecting children from over-sexualization, rather than people like Elise Markowitz pushing for porn in the libraries. I'm done.
Please refrain from
Thank you all very much. Please refrain from using people's names. The role of a trustee is to hire the superintendent, is to approve policy, and it is to approve the budget. And last but not least is to advocate on behalf of public education in the state of Texas. Katy ISD is a very big district. They have a lot going on, and they have a lot that they can educate other elected officials on. So thank you for your answers. We are going to move right along to question number 4. If you are elected as the trustee for this position in Katy ISD, what will be your role in helping increase the state's contribution to Katy ISD and working to resolve other state-level funding issues that negatively impact Katy ISD? Mr. Redmond first.
Save the easy questions for the middle, I guess. School finance is not a simple system. There's so many factors that go into play. Our role as a trustee, right, I think I just kind of mentioned it, to go and advocate at the Austin level. Currently, with the way inflation is going crazy, we're currently operating on an ADA amount from the 19 to 20 school year. And now as we enter into the 22-23 school year, we're dollars 3 years old that don't go as far as they used to. And so there isn't an inflation modifier built into the budget in Austin, right? And so I do believe the people in Austin do want the best for the state of Texas. And so I do believe it's a place for us as trustees to go and let them know, like, hey, this is what's happening with finances. And we've been able to set that in place so that we can not only go do that as a district, but also inform you as a community to bring your voice to the table and say, look, we want to see our teachers paid more. Right? One of the big issues there is it's not just taking us, right? We're there at the 98 to 100%. We're right up there in the area. But the issue isn't making us the top paying district. The issue is like we're tens of thousands away from where teachers need to be. And so there's a lot more that needs to happen other than just adjusting our 2.5% in admin, or we can go on a bunch of stuff all day long. But yeah, the big part is going to be advocating, sharing with our community how to go to Austin, share that information, and ideally being able to build in an inflation modifier so that as this goes on, this isn't something that always has to come back to every legislative session.
Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, so I'd like to speak about Raise Your Hand Texas that somebody's mentioning. It's a leftist lobbyist group out of Austin that's funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's a terrible idea. A trustee is supposed to be nonpartisan. We're joining and advocating for trustees to go to Austin to be lobbyists. If it's for good policy, great. But what if it's somebody who is advocating for boys to participate in girls' sports? There are people who push for bad policies in school districts, and you don't want to have a voice in Austin with the state where you can, again, his heart's in the right place. I want to affect change at the state level, but it's a terrible, terrible idea. I don't think we have a funding issue. I don't think we need more state funding with all the strings attached. We have a spending problem. Our bureaucracy is ridiculous. We have a we're very top heavy. We have overpaid administrators who don't support teachers. They provide oversight and they put more red tape on our teachers. We need to do a complete reorg, put those people in positions, at least 15% of them in positions of teacher support. Give that money to the teachers after you do your reduction in force, your reorg, whatever you need to do. And again, we don't need more state funding. We have a spending problem, not a collection problem.
Can you please repeat the question?
Absolutely. If you are elected as the trustee for this position in Katy ISD, what will be your role in helping increase the state's contribution to Katy ISD and working to resolve other state level funding issues that negatively impact Katy ISD?
Okay, well, that's a great question. So I'm going to confess that I'm not as caught up on some of these topics as I would like to be. I do think that we should not have funding tied to testing. We shouldn't have strings attached to any of the funding that we receive for our schools. I think that it's important for communication, ideas, even if they're opposing ideas, to be considered and taken to the state legislature. I think that we don't necessarily have a money problem. I think we have funds. I think we have lots of funds, and I think that they're not being allocated equally. I think they're being distributed very disproportionately, that strings are attached to many of them, and it's something that I would like to work with the other trustees and the state to learn more about and to make sure that we have the necessary funding and that it's going to the right places, which again is our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a reason why we have independent school districts in the state of Texas, and that's because we should be independent school districts. It should be local accountability. it should be locally run, and think we all can agree that streams attached are not what we need for our district to be healthy, whether it be state or federal streams attached. So moving right along, and please let's stay on topic, and I wanted to make a comment, Ms. Anderson, that Raise Your Hand Texas is solely funded by Charles Buck with HEB. So thank you very much. We're going to move on to question number 5. Our current state accountability system accurately and effectively evaluating our schools and communities here in Katy? Could state and accountability ratings have an impact on our Katy economy? If so, please share some examples. Ms. Patricia.
Again, with the easy questions. Okay, so if I'm hearing the question correctly, I apologize. I think that accountability ratings and we definitely need to have accountability ratings and accountability in our schools, and whether it's from assessments, which this may be another question, but it should not come from standardized tests like the STAR. That's a terrible way to measure anything in our schools. And I think that having different types of assessments, different types of projects for teachers to use to evaluate and assess our kids is probably, and research shows that it's not the STAR, that there are other ways to hold our educational system accountable and to show that our kids are learning and are successful. Again, I apologize if I'm not understanding the question correctly.
Is our current system, does it effectively evaluate our schools? The state accountability, does our current test evaluate our schools effectively?
Short answer, no. I don't think it is. No. Sorry, I'm a little bit frazzled up here on the panel. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Redmond, and then it's going to be Ms. Anderson.
It does not, STAR test is not an accurate representation or assessment for our schools. One test on one day does not provide an accurate picture of our kids, of our teachers, of our schools, or our state. There are 100 other ways they can do it. The district's been working on some great local accountability metrics to work on. COVID put they slowed that down a little bit. But there's some great community-based accountability. Is accountability needed? Absolutely. The rankings, they do affect our community and our economy. Just yesterday, I was with 2 different local nonprofits, and they, unprovoked in their presentation, they bring up that Katy ISD and how successful it is as a school district helps make this community. And so if that were to change and that were to drop down a different letter grade, I do believe that it would affect people as they're moving into the city, as they're moving to our community, to our district. And so accountability needs to be fixed. A letter grade is not the best option, and the STAR test is absolutely not the best option for you.
So the state of Texas paid $388 million to Pearson VUE and Candia to administer. So the STAR test became so complicated to administer, we had to pay $388 million to help schools administer it. Why didn't we give that money to teachers? Kids are so nervous about this test that they throw up before going into it. Teachers have to teach to it all year long. It's not a measure of reading, writing, or arithmetic. It's ridiculous. You said a minute ago that we are an independent school district. Why are we still doing this? Only, well, I can't say that. So, no, it's not a good measure. It's not a good accountability system. By the way, did you know, we just saw this recently happen in Katy ISD. If your school district gets a poor enough rating, you lose your right to vote for your trustees. How's that for an accountability system?
Thank you very much. I agree with all of you. It's not a good accountability system. Why don't we measure growth? Would that be a little bit of a better measure? There are very high-performing schools that have great things going on, but their letter grade is not good. And absolutely, who wants to work for an F school, or who wants to live in an F district? No one would want to live in an F district. And certainly as a student, how would you feel every day going to an F school? So we should think about local accountability, I believe, is key, and we need to continue to advocate that that is not a good measure of what is going on in school districts. Moving on to question number 6. All over the state, there are discussions and reports around teacher pipeline, recruitment and retention issues. How has the epidemic impacted Katy ISD? How would you support Katy ISD administration in tackling this nationwide issue? Mr. Redmond.
It is absolutely happening. It's not just financial. It's not just about a lack of respect. Although those are happening. I think one of the things that I saw from 20 years ago as my wife came into teaching, right, the time she spent at home was grading papers. And then over the last several years, what that changed to was more essential parts of her job that she had to be doing at home. When we go to bed, she was continuing to work on all the other stuff that got added. So I kind of feel like there's a bandwidth problem. We're asking our teachers to give 100% of the bandwidth, when in reality we need to create some more margin for them. And so what that looks like, I believe, is going through and figuring out what are the things that used to be, like, that made Katy special that we added and have changed, or that the state has required, removing some of those items. Recently, if you look at kind of 2 actions that Katy's taken ahead of time, last year around this time, we voted to bring in and start the process for the TEA's Teacher Incentive Allotment Program. And so what that does is it starts laying the groundwork so the teachers are able to bring in an extra $3,000 to $32,000 a year based on a certification that they can get. Now, it's not a fast program. It does take some time to create that program, and the district is working on that, as well as most recently here over the past couple months, maybe it was March, February board meeting, started our own certification program. And so now what we're able to do is we're able to bring teachers in, help them get certified, knowing that there's a job and a pipeline to move in immediately. And so a bunch of other things our HR department has worked on, but those are 2 of the most recent that you can go back and look at and see that we've seen ahead of time and started to be proactive in building that pipeline back up.
Sanders.
Teachers don't need incentives, they need pay. We're paying $4,000 to $5,000 less than Fort Bend ISD, the Lamar ISD. There are science classes with 32 kids in them. Teachers does not make more if they have 22 kids or 32 kids. They make the same amount of money. We managed to give the superintendent a raise to make over $350,000 in January, and a new benefits package that includes a cash out option for his vacation that's equal to another $10,000 or $20,000. Why are we just talking about this? Do something. If you're in the position to do something, do something. Talk about teacher pay raises now. Katy should lead the way in paying the highest in Texas. We need to start out at teachers with 8 years experience, give them at least 2,000 more than surrounding districts, so that other districts have to train them, and we start getting them when they're really good and trained, and we keep them. Teachers are leaving at 15, 20 years to go to other districts because their retirement is based on their best 5 years. They're going to maximize that. So we're losing our best teachers because we're doing nothing about it.
So I agree that it's more than just about pay. It's more than just about increasing salaries. although that is a huge part of it, we do have the lowest teacher salaries of all of the districts surrounding us, and we have enough money in the district where that does not need to be the case. I think that it's ideal to hire teachers who have experience, who have the education, the certification, the experience already. That's ideal. I also think that it's not very realistic right now, that people are not going to school, they're not going to college to be teachers right now. It's not an attractive position, it's not an attractive job. Coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic and with the fact that teachers are taking so much work home with them, they're spending every day in the classroom with classes that are overcrowded. They can't manage, they can't really assess like they need to be assessing. They can't teach like they need to be teaching, and they're taking all this work home with them as well. So yes, I think we need to pay our teachers more. I think that retaining teachers is important. I think we need to provide opportunities for teachers to have mental health care. This pandemic was extremely difficult for them as much as it was for any of us, and incentives and pay need to come together and to get the best quality teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that we can all agree in this room that teachers deserve more pay. Teachers deserve a lot of pay, and it's a very, very hard job. And I think that we can all agree that the teaching profession has changed drastically in the past 10, 15, 20, 30 years, in the sense that teachers are having to deal with societal issues today, and they're not just focused on teaching kids like they should be. 80% of the school's budget, or the district's budget, is people. So the majority of all the funds is people, and it's a big bill, and that's why advocating on the Texas level to ensure that we are getting the correct funding for people is extremely important. So those partnerships with universities are important, and creating environments where people want to come to work. I think that we all in this room can agree that we've said something bad about teachers. I've done it myself, something bad or negative about teachers and schools. Who wants to go into a profession that people are always talking bad about? So anyway, we can be encouraging, and we can create environments where teachers can be successful. We're going to go ahead and move right along to our next question, which is going to be, should publicly funded charter schools operate and function by the same set of rules as districts like Katy ISD? Ms. Anderson?
I have no idea how to answer that. I know people who have their kids going to Aristoid, and as far as I know, they have different sets of policies, and when Katy had some bad ones, they had some good ones, so I guess the answer would be no, they shouldn't operate by the same set.
I'm also, this is a tough question. I think that they should be held to the same standards as public schools. I think that if money is going into the schools, then they absolutely should be held to the same standard as the rest of our schools. I believe that that's the case right now. And I may be wrong about this, but the STAR testing is not required in charter schools. No? Okay, but we don't have the same, but we have the same funding going into the charter schools as we do into the public schools. And it's, I don't think that that's fair. I don't think that that's equal, and they don't have to live up to other standards that the public schools do. So I guess my answer is no.
Should charter schools have to play by the same rules public schools do?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, they should. I mean, by the sheer fact that if taxpayer money is going to go to a school, there should be representation from voter base. They should have voted on school boards rather than people that don't even live out of state, kind of like our Urquhart experience this past year. They should receive the same amount of funding per person. Charter schools get more money. And those two things I think are good enough. But then go on further and say that they should be forced, or they should have to accept all the kids that come to the district. Right? If Katy ISD could pick and choose, but man, they just wouldn't be good. And so yes, charter schools and public schools should have to play by the same rules.
Absolutely. I think that we can all agree on that subject. All right. This is going to be our last question. If the outcome of this election cycle does not conclude with a victory for you, in what ways will you support the candidate that does indeed win the votes to hold this position? Mr. Redmond.
I've been in this district for 40 years. My kids are going to be here for at least another 9 years. We've supported the Education Foundation, FFA, got kids in band, probably sports, the booster clubs and PTAs and all those kinds of things. And so no matter the outcome of this election, still be supportive of Katy ISD. I've been blessed to have previous board members that offer their support. One of my strengths is context and understanding exactly why things are the way they are. And so they've been invaluable to go back and realize, why did the previous board vote this way? Why is the policy written this way? And so I don't know if anybody take up on it, but if we're not to have the opportunity to serve again, I would absolutely continue to support the school district and hopefully be a resource to provide some insight into why previous boards that I was a part of acted the way or voted the way we did.
Sorry, let's see. Yeah, Ms. Haggard, that's your next.
I absolutely would feel the same way. I have kids in Katy schools that are going to be there for a long time, that are involved in extracurricular activities. I'm invested in the schools, and I will continue to do everything to support kids, their schools, their teachers, and the trustees, with the hopes that while at the same time making sure that the trustees are being held accountable for all of the decisions that they're making that will affect my children. Okay, so on top of that, I've been given the opportunity to clarify my final response to the previous question. So I said no at the very end. My answer is yes. The no was that no, they should not be receiving the same funding and the same when they're not being held accountable to the same criteria. So the actual answer to the question is yes.
Ms. Anderson?
No, I would absolutely not support a trustee. It does not win or lose. And actually, I'll say it right now, I would happily vote for someone who's the incumbent right now if he would stand up and say that he will ask questions in board meetings, that he will push for policies to protect parental rights, to hire and retain good teachers, and to support a quality traditional education. We need policies banning, it's coming. We need policies banning boys from participating in girls' sports. We need policies to ban pervasively vulgar material from our libraries. We need policies banning critical race theory. We need to stop accepting money federal money with bad strings attached to it. We need to stop taking a detour from education to indoctrination. So I would fully support, I don't want to be trustee. I don't want to be doing this. It's a volunteer position. You know how many hours a month that takes? I would fully support somebody who would actually, who wants to serve and do a great job. I would happily do that. But no, win or lose, if things keep going the same way they're going, no, I wouldn't support that.
All right. We will now come to our closing statements, which will be 1 minute. We're going to start with Ms. Anderson, and then Ms. Hager, and then Mr. Redmond. 1 minute for closing remarks.
Thank you. I will repeat, protect parental rights. Never again should we have school policies that force parents to abdicate their right to make medical choices or mental health choices or sex talks or not sex talks with their kids. Protect parental rights. Hire and retain good teachers and focus on educating and none of the other stuff.
So in closing, I'd like to say that right now we don't teach CRT in our schools. It's not something that the state of Texas does. Also right now, we don't have transgender students participating in sports with biologically, birth students. That's not something that we do. It's not something that the Board of Trustees will decide on because it's not in our scope of practice. That's a state issue. And I'm all for parental choice. I will advocate for parents to have a voice in the boardroom, to have a voice, and to have a say in what their kids are being taught in school. I welcome open dialogue and will work with other trustees and parents in a unified, collaborative way. Because at the end of the day, I think we all actually have the same thing in common, and that's we all want what's best for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. I was going to say the same thing as Rick meeting with you tonight. And, I think no matter how much we disagree on maybe how something's carried out, I think the heart of it is that we want what's best for kids, for our community, and each of our ways. I want to encourage you, last May, 8,600 out of 210,000 voters participated in this election. That's just over 4% of registered voters in Katy, deciding what happens to 90,000 students. Of all the things we've talked about tonight, I encourage you to become educated on what each of us think, what those issues that are going to be coming up on this next term, and get out and vote. Tell people to vote. Find out more. Get involved. That's the most important thing any of us can do, because that's a responsibility that each of us have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes our candidate forum for position 2 for the Katy ISD School Board. Thank you, candidates, for showing up and sharing your vision and ideas this evening. At this time, we will finish our program with a few words from our fearless leader and president and CEO, Mr. Matthew Ferraro. Dr. Robert Long.
Thank you. Can we give our candidates another round of applause? And if any of you have families in the audience, if you have family members in the audience that's come to support, can you stand? Family members of the candidates, please stand, because this is not just one person, it's a lot of people. Give them a round of applause as well. And so to our audience on Facebook Live, as well as to the audience here, The Katy Area Chamber, we always want to be a fair and trusted hand at the table and making sure that everyone has a opportunity and place and space to have their voice heard. Earlier this evening, there was a comment made by a candidate for one position towards another candidate in another position who felt that that was a little slanderous, and we want to voice that. We're not going to address that, but we want to let that record be straight that that candidate felt like that was slanderous and did operate outside of our logistical procedures. But we wanted to make sure that we set that record clear for the evening tonight, and I would say go and vote. Thank you very much.